Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Okay, so that's basically what we're going to be creating here. This is the little Kinetic Typography project. And the idea here is that you're going to get a lesson in parenting. We're going to use a controller layer to control the positioning and scale and rotation of other layers, in this case a bunch of text. Okay, so let's see how this all works. We're going to go ahead and create a new composition. We can either go to the new composition up here at the top, Command or Control N, or we can just click the little icon right here for creating a new comp. We're going to make it 8 seconds long, and we're going to use the HDTV 1080 2997 preset, and we'll give it a name. My version. Okay, let's go ahead and drag the audio layer onto the timeline. Kennedy Ask Not MP3. And we should, let's go ahead and listen to it. You can press the decimal key on the keypad to render only the audio.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Okay, so that's what we're going to work with, that piece of audio right there. Let's start stacking things on top of this. I'm going to go to Layer, New, Solid. We're going to create a black solid, and we're going to name it Background, BG. We're going to create a new solid. This one we're going to name Floor, and we're going to make it a dark teal color. And the colors on that are going to be a hue of 190, saturation of 60, and a brightness of 15. Click OK. And there we have a screen filled with teal. Now I'm rolling my mouse back here. That's what I want you to do. I want to see a lot of gray around the edges. What I'd like for you to do is go and click and hold on the Shapes tool and go find the Ellipse tool. And out here in the gray, about the middle of the comp, I want you to start dragging out a big oval shape like this through the bottom half of the screen. Now what we've done is created a mask. There's our mask indication right there, and we can see we have masked out this portion of the layer and only showing this. Now we're going to feather this mask, so we're going to type F for feather, and we're going to put 400 pixels of feather in. 400 pixels of feather. Looks good. And now let's go ahead and get our Statue of Liberty layer. Let's drag that in, and we'll kind of position that. Go get the selection tool. We'll position that sort of down here into the corner. Let's go ahead and add some blur to this. I'll go to the Effects and Presets. We're going to type in Fast Blur. There's Fast Blur. We're going to add that to the Statue of Liberty layer, and we're going to blur that guy out over here in Effect Controls. 20 pixels of blur, just a little bit of blur. I'm going to go ahead and twirl up the floor layer right there. And let's go ahead and go get some type now. I'm going to go get the Type tool, and I'm going to come right up in here. And I want to use a font of Century Gothic, a color that is a light teal color. That's going to be, let's see, 175, 25, and 55. And we're going to type ask, lowercase. Okay, let's just more or less center that on the screen somewhere. And now we're going to type the word not on another text layer. So we're going to have to click away somewhere to get that deselected. And we'll go back to our type layer, and just somewhere else we're going to type not, N-O-T. Now here I want to make some changes to not. I'm going to go ahead and select it, and I don't have much screen area here, so I got to move this down a little bit. I'm going to click this double T right here to make it all caps. I'm going to change the color to white, but a brightness of 90 because text really shouldn't be 100%. We're going to go to 90% white, and we're going to make this Century Gothic bold and a size of 140. And now I'm going to roll my mouse in here a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and draw out a guide here from the top. If you don't see your rulers, click Control or Command R to show the rulers. And just up here in the gray of the ruler, I'm going to drag out a guide right there. Now I'm going to go and get my selection tool and grab the knot layer and pull that into position. Looks pretty good. That's what I want. I'm going to hold the space bar down a little bit here so we can just kind of see how that positioning looks. When you hold the space bar down, what it does is temporarily activates the move tool, or the hand tool, I guess they call it, and that allows you to move around the screen without actually changing anything. You're not moving objects, you're just changing your point of view. The next thing we need to do is rotate this type. Let me go ahead and roll my mouse back a little bit here. I'm going to select both ask and not, and I'm going to type the R key, R for rotation. I'm going to rotate it minus 90 degrees. Okay. Now, I'm going to have to work with these layers each individually. Whoops. And we'll go get the ask layer and put it somewhere down in here, and the not layer, put it somewhere around in here. Let's go ahead and make sure these are lined up nicely. And I'll go ahead and drag out another guide. We'll just take not and just nudge it into place. I'm using the cursor keys for this. Right on the keyboard. The cursor keys are the left, right, up, and down arrows, but automatically they just will move things, nudge things 1 pixel up, down, left, right for you. Okay, looking good so far. Now let's go ahead and add our type. We're going to go ahead and click right in here and type what your. And this must be a new thing, a new feature in CC or CC 2014. Whatever layer that we have selected of type, if we start typing a new layer, it picks up the attributes for that. So that's a nice thing. We don't have to make any changes here in that case. But if yours doesn't work that way, you may have to change your attributes back to, you know, Century Gothic, regular, 120, what this color, a teal, whatever. But we're going to go ahead and move this into position right here up here. And what I'm going to do is position this kind of right here, something like that. Okay, I'm looking at this T, trying to draw a little line across there. It looks pretty good, real close. Okay, what your. Okay, the next word is country. Let me go click on not, and I'll go ahead and start typing the word country. Oh, that is so cool, man. I'm really excited about that. That's a big time saver. Such a little thing, but such a big time saver. I'm going to go ahead and drag out another guide here so we can line up with country, with what your, I should say. Okay, what's your country? Now, let's see. We're going to select our what your layer. This time, we're just going to duplicate this layer. Command or Control D to duplicate. And here we can see it down here. I'll go ahead and double click on this layer, and that'll select it, and we're going to go ahead and retype it. Can do 4. Oh, that's a mess, ain't it? So we'll take this and we're just going to nudge it down to its proper location. I'm going to hold Shift, and using the cursor keys, I'm just going to nudge this right down. Down, 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 and looks pretty good. Maybe I'm going to let up on the Shift key now. With Shift, it moves things 10 pixels at a time. If you don't have Shift, it moves things 1 pixel at a time. Nudge, I should say. Something like that. That's pretty close. That's good enough for us. Okay? All right. Our type is basically through. We still have the word you to do, but we're going to save that for later. And that is the end of our basic setup for this. Now we have to animate it. I'm going to go ahead and scroll this back a little bit so we can see a little bit more of the timeline. So with the audio layer selected, I'm going to type really quickly the letter L twice, LL. And that's going to show us the waveform for this audio layer. So let's just listen to it here. I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Control or Command key if you're on a Mac and scrub the timeline.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
So really quickly you can see that each one of these rises and falls of this waveform correspond to words. Each one of these is a word. Okay, so there's ask, not. Okay, so we need to have these words come in as they are said. So what I'm going to do, go ahead and just get a little closer in on the timeline. We're going to listen for when not hits. Okay, so about 22 frames in is when not is going to hit for us. So what I'm going to do with the not layer is I'm going to drag the edge of the layer back to that point, 22 frames in the timeline. Okay, so when we watch it, we see ask not. It just pops right there. Okay. The next one we're going to do is the word what, which is going to occur way down here at 2 seconds and 4 frames. So we're going to find what your in the timeline, and we're going to drag the edge of the clip, this is called the end point, back to that point. Now we've got another one still to do, that is the word country. Now country is not as important to us because we're going to do something else with country, but we're going to go ahead and do that anyway. We're going to drag it back to that point. Now we need can do for you. So we're going to go find the word can. Need to go a little further down, looks like here. Okay, so there's the word can right there at 3 seconds and 6 frames. Something like that, 307 maybe. And where's that line? Can do for. Okay, so we're going to take that guy, and I can't see the beginning of the timeline here, so I'm going to use a little trick instead, and that is the Alt key and the left bracket key on the keyboard. That will also set for us the endpoint. So if we play this back, we get
Can do for you.
So if we go to the home position, we can watch this play back.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
Perfect. Now, if you need to make any little individual tweaks, then this is a good time to do that. All right, let's go ahead and move along, and let's start animating this type now. So what we're going to do is add a null object. Null object. There we go. And we're going to move this to the top of the timeline here. And I'm going to hit the Enter key to rename it. We're going to call it controller. Now, the controller, the null object, doesn't do anything itself, but we can make it move around even though it's invisible. And what we're going to do is have all of these text layers go wherever this guy goes. Okay, so we're going to select all of these text layers. And what we're looking for is the pick whip. The pick whip is right over here. You should see this thing that says parent, this column that says parent. If you don't, you'll have to go down here and click this little icon in the corner. It's the middle icon. And we're going to drag this little curly Q thing right here called the pick whip up to the controller. Now what that's going to do is whenever the controller moves, all of these guys are going to move too. Position, scale, rotation. That's what they correspond to with the controller. Now before we go any further, we're going to go ahead and lock these layers. I'm just going to lock everything except the controller, just to make sure that we don't move things accidentally. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on Position for the controller, P, and if you will, hold Shift and type S, and then type R. And you can see we have position, scale, and rotation all listed out for us. So what we're going to do is go to 22 frames. That should be it right there. And we're going to set keyframes for all of these three properties. So we just click on the stopwatch and drag right straight down, and we're going to set keyframes for all of these properties. Okay. Now the first thing we're going to do is alter the rotation. Let's set it back to 90. Okay. Now let's go ahead and position it properly on the screen. So we're going to move it down, right around in there somewhere. And now we're going to back up a few frames, about 4 frames or so, 6 frames, about 4 frames. So I'm going to use the page up key on the keyboard and just tap those. Those are each individual frames. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That gets us back to the 18 mark there. And what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and zoom way in on this, and I'm going to reposition ask a little bit. I'm just going to nudge it a little bit to the right. Okay, so now what we're going to have is ask not. You see, it sort of moves over and makes room for not. That's kind of cool. We'll go to 113 now, and we're just going to set a dummy set of keyframes. The way you do that is just by clicking the little diamond right there on the far left. Now those keyframes are exactly the same as these, so you could copy and paste those if you wanted to, but I think that's the little bit easier method for us. So now we're going to move to 204 in the timeline. That's that point right there. And what we're going to do is rotate and position the text. So we're going to rotate to 0. And we're going to reposition. So we'll move this up to more or less our original position, wherever we were. And so we'll see then this. So as soon as it rotates, stops rotating, pop, therein comes what your country. Okay. Now at this point we need to unlock the country layer because we're going to work on that guy next. Let's go to 220 in the timeline. There we go. And for the country layer, we're going to click on Scale and Position. So hold Shift and P. And actually, we're also going to use Transparency. So T for Transparency or Opacity. And we're going to set keyframes for each of those objects. And we're going to come back to the beginning point right here for that layer. And we're going to scale way up, 300%, 300. And we're going to reposition this so that it's more or less centered on the screen. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, something like that. And we'll also add an opacity adjustment. We'll set it to 0. So now it's going to fade in, scale back, and park there. So we have ask not, what's your country? There we go. So I think we can move a little bit down on the timeline now. And the next one we have is can do for you, or can do for. We haven't done you yet. So we'll go back to the controller layer. We're going to twirl up country and lock it. We don't need to make any more adjustments to that. We're going to be doing all our adjustments to the controller layer. We'll move now to 415 in the timeline, 415. And we're going to scale up really, really big, 19,000%, really huge. Then the trick now is we've got to find a spot in the type that fills the screen up. So I've plugged in some numbers here, but it's always going to be different. It just absolutely depends on where you position your type, and if you're not just exact, which we're not in this case, we're just going to kind of have to hunt around a little bit to find it, but there we go. And let's see how close we come to filling it up. Yeah, we do. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going all the way in on the O and do. I'd actually rather go in on the word for, but that's okay. We're just going to go right to the spot in do. And right here, we're going to type our last piece of text. So let's go ahead and go and click on the country, the word country. Whoops, that's locked. So let's go ahead and unlock it for a second. We just need to click on it. So we've got something to use as our type base, I guess. And we're going to make a couple of quick changes right here. We're going to turn off all caps. We're going to change the size back to 120. and we're going to set it to regular, and we'll go ahead and just type U, Y-O-U. Get that centered on the screen, kind of push in here a little bit. Oops, push in a little bit more. And let me go ahead and turn on my title and action safe markers so I can kind of see where it is here. Yeah, turn those back off. And so the last step for us, or one of the last steps I guess, is what to do with this type. And what we're going to do now, right now it's not being controlled by the controller. Here's a U right here, but we're going to go ahead and set it after the animation finishes for all the other stuff. Okay, so now we've finished that animation completely. Now we're going to pick whip U to the controller. And it's really important that we wait to that point when the animation's not doing anything in this case, because what's going to happen now is as the controller scales, this type is going to scale also. So in this case, the controller is scaled all the way up to 19,000%. Our type looks totally normal. Look what happens when we go backwards. That type gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It's an imperceptible little dot in there in the type. So let's go ahead and preview this now. Move this up a little bit. Press the home key. RAM preview.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Okay, and I see there that I made a mistake. It looks like on country is not. Country changed on me here. I need to go back and change that. Country changed instead of you. I'm sure that's my fault. I messed that up. 140 and all caps. And bold. There we go. That's what it's supposed to look like. So one more time.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
Okay, perfect. Now, the last thing we can do to this, there's actually several things you can do. One is I'm going to go ahead and press the U key on the controller layer, and I'm going to encourage you to fool around with using easy ease on your scale properties. It may not be appropriate always to do it, but just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and set easy ease now. Normally that would be F9, but I can't get to F9 because F9 is a function of the recorder that I'm using to record this tutorial. So I'm going to right click and go to Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. Okay, and what that's going to do is just make this motion have a little bit of gas and brakes for when it moves around. It might be good also to use this for rotation. So I might use it for those first two rotation keyframes. So I'll right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. So that'll probably help those out. Might do it also on country. That one's unlocked, so I'll press the U key, and I'll go ahead and do that for scale again. Can you use it for position? Yes, you can, but sometimes the results aren't what you're looking for. So we'll go ahead and easy ease that, and again, that just puts on the gas and the brakes. You can see how that kind of moves a little bit, sort of moves funny. So it may or may not be the right choice for us. Anyway, the last thing I want to encourage you to do, let me go ahead and twirl all of these up, is to use motion blur, or at least experiment with motion blur. And motion blur has several switches. Here's the master switch. It looks like a bunch of little stacked up circles. And so we need to turn on the master switch first. And then for everything that moves, for us that's all type. Let's see, let me go ahead and unlock these. For everything that moves, we're going to turn on motion blur. Okay? No need to turn it on for things that don't move. The controller, actually the controller's invisible, so it doesn't matter if you turn it on or not. We can't see it. And obviously we don't need it for the text and so forth. The backgrounds don't move. So anyway, here's what happens when you use it, when you turn it on. You can see that we've got some blurriness now that happens. That's a little bit more natural. That's a little bit more filmic for us. So I'm going to go ahead and render this again.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
So obviously some problems there. It turns out I don't like easy ease on some of those scale properties. That wasn't the right choice for us. But I do want you to at least experiment with scale, and or easy ease on scale, I should say. Okay, that's it. I hope you've got something out of this. It's your turn now. You're going to animate the rest of this. And what you may want to do is start with a brand new comp. You might consider this scene 1 and create a new scene, and then you can combine those two scenes into a final master comp, and maybe even include another null object or parent one scene to another scene and slide one off the screen as you slide the other one on, or something like that. So experiment with it, have some fun, and this is the model that I want you to try to use for at least a part of your Kinetic typography project. And that is this idea of parenting things to other things, specifically in this case to a null object, the controller layer. So again, have fun, and let me know if you have any questions.